So they have memorials here for specific soldiers who fell in battle, as well as commemorating all the unknown soldiers. This is really powerful stuff. And I'm not even going to be able to get most of it. I'm just getting a small snippet here of the whole line of this memorial. Now we're at Utah Beach. And Omaha Beach is the memorial. It's pretty cool that they memorialize the other beaches out here, because again, this is Gold Beach that I'm at. They're still honoring all the other beaches. Just an absolutely beautiful sight. It feels like a military cemetery or something. You see some cows out there. I might have to abandon my plan of getting right down to the water, because it looks like a pretty long walk, and I'd do it, but I want to see the other things, and I'm limited by time, unfortunately, but I will be back here. This is really amazing, having studied this for most of my life and actually seeing it in person, and it's incredibly heartwarming to see that the memory of all the people that fought and gave their lives is still preserved and revered to this day by all the people around here. And also, it's not forgotten what they fought for. They fought against Nazism. They fought against fascism. And, when the D-Day landings occurred, there had been rumors about the Holocaust and about what the Nazis were doing to the Jews and other undesirables. But even people like Dwight D. Eisenhower thought that it couldn't possibly be that bad. There's no way they were actually doing those mass exterminations. That was just propaganda. And of course, they figured out that it wasn't just bullshit. It wasn't just hearsay. Once the Western Allied forces, as well as the Russians, started coming across all the camps, then they realized that there was really just horrific shit going on, and it wasn't just rumors. And I think we kind of need to keep that in mind today. People get complacent. People just get overloaded with, people crying wolf. This is part of why I really detest the whole jumping right to, oh, he's literally a Nazi. People called fucking George W. Bush a Nazi, and Hey, I'll be the first one to say he was a war criminal, and he got the U.S. fighting in Iraq under totally false pretenses. And I know people that fought there. I know people that died. And I know people that struggle to this day, having fought over there. And that says nothing about about all the civilians that died and were traumatized. And feel free to fact check me on this one, but all the war on terror really accomplished was it just increased recruitment for anti-American and anti-Western terrorist organizations like ISIS. It just increased them, increased their recruitment. And we saw the same thing in Vietnam. You know, the more that the United States bombed North Vietnam, and the more that American forces had to, fight and deal with a lot of the poor North Vietnamese villagers that really didn't even have a dog in the fight, and they were just caught in the middle. The more that happened, the more you had people turning, local people turning against the American forces that were fighting over there. And you really can't blame them, I mean, imagine if your neighborhood was getting bombed and napalmed and harassed by occupying foreign military forces. Good luck winning the hearts and minds on that one. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Yeah, occupying authoritarian fascist regimes, imperialistic regimes, they're not good, and we need to fight against them. All these people here, they gave their lives fighting against a fascist regime, and thankfully, they were conquered. The Nazis fell, the Imperial Japanese fell, but I think it's really important to remember that in spite of the fact that they were going up against pretty much the Axis powers were going up pretty much an impossible battle against especially Russia and the United States, that were just so huge population-wise, and they had such amazing production, manufacturing capabilities. Both the Nazis and Imperial Japan, their whole path to victory hinged on their foes, the Allies, basically just surrendering because they wouldn't have the stomach to fight. And fortunately, they did have the stomach to fight, but that resulted in a very long, very brutal war where a whole lot of people on all sides, soldiers, civilians, they all lost their lives. And those who survived were traumatized for the rest of their lives. And of course, the Holocaust which killed an estimated 6 million Jews and an estimated 10 million total of other undesirables, because the Nazis targeted, well, communists were the big one. That's why Russia was just a campaign of extermination, a war of extermination. But you had Romani, gypsies, all sorts of undesirables that also ended up in concentration camps and death camps, and many of them lost their lives. I think a lot of people only hear the 6 million Jews for the Holocaust, but there were 10 million people that lost their lives in the Holocaust, and that's estimated. And for all those Holocaust deniers out there that try to minimize it or deny it, those numbers, they're not just derived from random, we're guessing. They actually go in, and a lot of those numbers are derived from bodies that were recovered in the mass graves. The amount of hair and individual personal effects that were recovered from death camps like Auschwitz and Dachau. And that's how they're getting those numbers. It's not some random guessing game like a lot of the Holocaust deniers want you to think. There's actually very hard forensic evidence. They did the best they could, albeit, there were a lot of records that were not kept in a lot of the towns where the Einsatz group and the Nazi death squads were out killing people, and a lot of the people that were rounded up in various towns and then sent off to these concentration camps and death camps. There were a lot of places that just they didn't keep records. It's not like these little towns throughout Europe were all doing censuses and keeping hard records of people, so it's still very difficult. But that number of 6 million Jews and 10 million people total who died in the Holocaust, not even counting all the people that survived and managed to actually get out, that's not a number that they're just pulling out of their asses. That's verified. That's they're doing it as best as they can, trying to figure out just how many people died. So anyone that tries to deny or minimize the Holocaust, fuck you. Fuck you. You know what you're doing. You know what you're trying to do. You know that you're full of shit. You know that millions died. And the only reason you're denying is because you want millions more to die. So fuck you to Holocaust deniers. These men who died here at Gold Beach and at the other beaches and all throughout World War II, they didn't realize just how bad the Holocaust was, most of them, because they died before the camps got liberated, but they still knew what they were fighting for. They knew they were fighting against a fascist regime. even if they were, you know, not even 20, not even old enough to drink nowadays, not even old enough to buy cigarettes or even get porn. I think I don't even think that 18-year-olds can get porn in America in 2026, but they can't sign up for the army and get shot and killed before their prefrontal cortex even finishes developing by age 25. And I feel like nobody talks about that either. But anyway, I'm going off on a diatribe here. But this is Gold Beach. Absolutely beautiful, very solemn memorial. Really incredible.